Hi my loves, if you can hear the whistling wind, that's because I'm filming this clip while Storm Eunice rages outside, and it's a little bit scary actually. Anyway, this vlog is a little bit delayed in getting to you. I filmed it a few weeks ago, and basically in this vlog I do you a full skincare routine, but I actually had to end up refilming the skincare sections because the sound was just a little bit off and it just wasn't right. So the routine is integrated where it originally was in the vlog, but if you're wondering why my nails changed quite dramatically between clips, then that is why. And yes, I finished my big anthology, which I do a little read with me towards the end of this vlog with at the end of January. So it's been a little while, but I really hope you'll enjoy this vlog, and let's get into it. Hi my loves, welcome back. It's a vlogging day today, but within this vlog I wanted to do a full skincare routine for you. So I'm going to show you the morning routine, I'm going to show you the evening routine, because I've got some really exciting new products to talk to you about, which I've been using for a few weeks, and I've really noticed a huge difference in my skin. I don't know whether you guys can tell, but it is looking so much better than it was a few months ago, a couple of months ago. It's a lot clearer. Any sort of blemishes you can see are older scarring blemishes, and I currently have no active blemishes, which is amazing. It's just looking fresher, more alive, plumper, it's well moisturized, and yes, I think that's all down to these new products. So this part of the video is sponsored by Erborian. Oh, by the way, I'm in my mum's bathroom today because I thought we all would like a change, and it's a little bit more aesthetically pleasing than my bathroom. So if you're not familiar with Erborian, they are a cruelty-free skincare brand which is really inspired by Korean beauty and Korean skincare. You may be familiar with their BB and CC creams, which are also really fantastic if you're looking for that perfect skincare beauty hybrid, and their products are really focused on giving you like instant results and also really good long-term results. So the range that I have been using and loving for the past few weeks, possibly even months now, is the Ginseng Range. This is billed as a kind of anti-aging range, and number one, I am getting older and prevention's always better than cure. I think I'm probably the target market for this range now, but also it's really focused on moisturization. As I have mentioned recently, it's so important for me to keep my skin hydrated because I really think that helps keep it in balance. It stops me overproducing oil, keeps my skin barrier healthy, and as a result just means that I am less blemishy, my skin looks healthier. So yes, ginseng is also a Korean super ingredient. So I actually use the ginseng super serum at night time, but this formula actually has an 80% concentration of ginseng in it, which is amazing, and a super high concentration of active particles to really help smooth the skin, help the skin appear firmer, fight signs of aging, which is all wonderful things that Korean ginseng does, and it's present in all of these products as well. So you're going to get all those lovely effects through all of them. But yes, the super serum obviously has the highest concentration of ginseng in it, and it also has peptides in it, which is also going to help smooth the skin and improve the texture of the skin, and I have really noticed a difference in my skin texture through using these products. But anyway my loves, before we get into my routine, I actually have a 20% off discount code for you. It's Jess20. You can get 20% off site-wide on Arborian, which is so exciting. So yes, I will leave links down below for you and you can use that code as you wish. But moving on into my routine now. So the first thing I do in the morning is I actually just wash my face with water. I know, crazy. I find that if I over cleanse my skin, I go too dry, too dehydrated, which unbalances me, etc, etc. So in the morning I just wash my face thoroughly with water, so let me do that. Next I will use this little product, which is the O Ginseng, and it is concentrated lotion of instant moisture, and Arborian describe it as a kind of energizing step in your routine, and I really like it for that. It gives a little bit of just something to the skin, and it also adds just an extra layer of moisturization underneath my moisturizer, that all-round hydration that's going to last throughout the day. I just pop a little bit of it in the palm of my hand, and then I'll just pop it onto the skin. I also just love the smell of Arborian products, they smell so good. Then I'll pop a little bit of my Bare Minerals Skin Longevity Long Life Herb Serum. You've heard me talk about this countless times before. niacinamide in it, which I just love and find is really great for blemishes, scarring and all that kind of thing. Then I will take the Arborian Ginseng Infusion Day Cream. This is such a lovely moisturiser. So you all may know about my long journey with moisturiser. I find it so hard to find moisturisers that are genuinely moisturising but that don't end up kind of clogging my pores and causing more problems basically. And this is one of those moisturisers. It's just like a really nice kind of fluffy texture, this one. Super moisturising. Obviously it's got all of the kind of good effects of ginseng in it, and it just leaves me feeling just like plumped and hydrated. Final step in my morning routine, and one which I particularly love, is the Skin Hero O Ginseng. So this is a bare skin perfector, and it kind of works on 2 levels. So it's supposed to kind of instantly make your skin look better and also give you really good long-term skin refining results. And I have noticed both things. I absolutely love this product. It's very unusual, it's unlike anything I've used before. It's a silicone-free formula, which I love, so it kind of acts almost like a primer, like a silicone-free primer, which is amazing because my skin and silicone do not get on very well. So yeah, it uses Korean white ginseng to get that retexturizing effect long term, but also the formula just helps smooth the skin. It kind of reduces the appearance of pores. I just pump a little bit out onto my hand, and it has like a little bit more drag almost, I would say, than the moisturiser, and you are supposed to apply it over your moisturiser kind of as a final step, but in a kind of nice way, almost like it's creating like a mask between you and the outside world. It's just a really nice final step, kind of smooths the appearance of the skin, and I really, really love this product. Okay, my loves, that is my morning skincare routine done. But whilst we're here and it's daylight, I'll quickly run you through the masks that I do. So we talked a little bit about the Suzanne Kaufman enzyme peel in one of my recent vlogs, and I've been using this a couple times a week maybe, and I think, as I've said, it really helps me to concentrate on hydration daily and then do kind of treatment a couple times a week, and that means that my skin doesn't get out of balance, it doesn't get overly dry or dehydrated or sort of over treated, if you know what I mean, because that's when I find when I get a lot more problems. I have also been using these a little bit more. This is the Indian Healing Clay Mask, which I use in combination with the raw apple cider vinegar. I bought those a little while ago, and I think I talked about it at the time, but I've definitely got more into the habit of using it recently, like again once or twice a week, especially if I've picked at my skin, just to help draw out any impurities after I've picked something, reduce the size of blemishes, pores and stuff, and I think it really helps on that front. And the final product I will use sort of occasionally is the Ren Evercalm Overnight Recovery Balm. If my skin is getting a little bit flaky, or you know when you kind of you're buffing your foundation and you can like see a little bit of skin texture, which hasn't been happening that often to be fair, especially since I've been using these products, but if for whatever reason it does, I've been using this just to top up that moisturization at night time. But I would never use it kind of a few nights on the trot, but it's good for here and there, get it sinking deep into the skin because it's kind of like a balm, so it's quite kind of greasy, but it works as like a treatment for me. So yes, that is my daytime skincare routine, and now we can head off and go to our favourite brunch place, the Bistro Tech, for some lovely brunch and just have a nice chill Sunday together. So yes, let's go. Forgive the unmade bed, my loves, but this is my outfit for the day. Got on this Elder Statesman jumper and Frankie shop trousers, both of which I got for Christmas. Got my Prada shoes on, and got this Kwaidan Editions coat, which I love so much, that I got a few years ago. Anyway, I'm running late, so I'm gonna go downstairs. Hi my loves, really abandoned you there for a second, but we had a lovely brunch and came home, and I've been playing with the baby, and then I came upstairs to have a Sunday nap, which has been much needed. So my loves, I'm gonna head downstairs. Oh, do you know what? I I actually think I'm going to finish this book of short stories before January's over, and I'm really excited and kind of proud of myself. It is by far, I think, the longest book I've ever read, and I read over half of it this month, along with some Proust, so I'm actually pretty pleased with myself. I've sort of been berating myself, being like, oh, you're not going to finish it before January ends, blah blah blah, but I actually think I'm going to do it now, because I've been really dedicating a few hours in the evening after she goes to bed. Well, I say a few hours, a couple hours in the evening, after she goes to bed, to reading, and then trying to find little snippets of time in the day when Zach's giving her a bath, when she's feeding to sleep, maybe if I'm on the tube somewhere, and just trying to read. And I think I'm going to do it. I'm really pleased with myself. I'll also maybe chat you through some of the authors that I've discovered in the book that I would not normally have discovered. Didn't know what to say, I was taking the train one way. Hi loves, welcome back. I'm going to be doing my nighttime routine. If I look a little bit red, it's because I've just hopped off the Peloton, which I'm finally back in the swing of, which is really good. But I thought I'd just take you quickly through my nighttime routine. So when I'm in the shower, if I've had makeup on, I'll take it off with a Bare Minerals oil. This is actually an old version of the new oil, which I much prefer. It's a slightly different formula, it's a bit thicker. This one is a little bit thinner, but I found this under my sink. It's the old version, so I have been using this up, but I do prefer the new Bare Minerals oil, which is really nice, just for taking my makeup off. And then once I've done that, hop out the shower. First thing I put on is my ordinary niacinamide and zinc. You've seen me talk about this countless times. I've been using it for years. And yeah, it's just got a slightly high concentration of niacinamide in it, so I use it at night time. Now just a reminder, this is sponsored by Erborian, and I do have that discount code for 20% off. But next up I will use my Arborian Ginseng Super Serum. I use a couple of pumps, just comes out like that, and I pop that all over the skin. So nice and moisturising. Like I said, it's really been helping retexturize my skin as well. And then finally I go in with my Dr. Organics Organic Calendula fragrance-free skin moisturiser, which I talked about a lot in Vlogmas, and I get a nice big dollop of that and I pop that on the skin, and sometimes sort of leave it a bit streaky, like I put a lot on to really let it soak in. And that is it, my loves. Like I said, I'll do masks a few times a week. I'll usually do that before my shower, just so that then I can wash it off thoroughly in the shower. Particularly the clay one, because that one's a little bit messy. But yes, now I'm feeling refreshed and ready for the rest of my evening. So I'm gonna go and read for a little while. Hi my love, it's me again. I'm zoom you in a little bit. My hair's kind of greasy. Please ignore. A mix up with my logistics on hair washing. I thought I would do a little book haul today. I'm going to try and make it little and quickish, because as I said, I've been sent a lot of proofs recently, which is a copy of a book before it's published, and advanced copies of books from publishers, which is very exciting for a new job I'm doing. Most of them are speculative fiction, and I thought I would share some of them with you. Some of them are probably not going to be my cup of tea. In fact, some of them are downstairs. Oh, I'm going to go get them. Sort of caught my breath-ish. So I imagine that a lot of these books are not going to be my cup of tea. I've got lots here, and I'm going to try and be good about not reading them if they're not my cup of tea, because I do not have all the time in the world. And if they are not, they will find a loving home elsewhere, don't you worry. Or they will be on one of my many bookshelves in my house until I have enough books to fill those bookshelves, and then they will find a loving home. I think I'm going to dedicate like a day this week and just read like opening chapters, or like the first 30-40 pages of as many of them as I possibly can. I talked about a few of them on Instagram, but I have loads more. So I thought I would just go a little bit more in depth today. Talk about the ones I put on Instagram first, because they are the ones I am most excited about and most familiar with. First up, Moon Witch Spider King. I have a proof of the new Marlon James, which is so exciting. So this is the follow-up to Black Leopard Red Wolf, which I read in 2019 when it came out. It's Marlon James, Jamaican author, taking on like a fantasy trilogy. So this is the second book, and there will be a third. I hope, I assume. I believe this one is narrated from a wholly different perspective. So the first one's narrated from Tracker's perspective, and they're on the hunt for this, well not on the hunt, but they're looking for this missing boy, and it's all very Marlon James. I feel like I could spot Marlon James's prose like a mile away. Like if you gave me a book of his and said, and didn't tell me who it was by and said, who's this by, I think I would easily be able to guess, because it has such a meaty, brutal feel to it. At the same time, it's sort of obfuscatory on purpose. It makes you sort of look between the words. Yeah, it's got a very specific kind of darkness to it. But anyway, I'm so excited. I wrote my first dissertation, my undergrad dissertation, on one of his books, Brief History of Seven Killings, which is not a fantasy, and other books, but that was one of the major ones. So I'm very excited to have a proof of one of his books. So exciting. This one is coming out on the 3rd of March, so not too long a wait, and I'll let you know what I think of it. I think it's going to be the next thing I read, so I'm so excited. But yeah, I think it's narrated from Sogolon's point of view, who is this kind of centuries old witch, I think, as far as I can remember. But this whole cast of characters is on the lookout for this boy, or searching for this boy. If I remember correctly, I don't think her and Tracker get on very well. But anyway, the next book I'm so excited about, and this one isn't a speculative fiction book, but this is Either Or by Elif Batuman. So this is the author of The Idiot. This is her second book. I know she has written something else, but I don't think it's a novel, and I think The Idiot was her first novel. I think it's also a follow-up to Celine's story, so it continues the story of The Idiot. You all know I loved The Idiot. It made me cackle out loud. It's not for everyone, that book. For those who really vibe with it, I think really enjoyed it. About a girl who goes to Harvard in the 90s. She's from a Turkish background, and she just gets herself, it's quite a literary novel, so there's quite a lot of interesting ideas in there. It's quite clever, the prose is really good, but it's also quite funny. Like, she just gets herself into all sorts of stupid situations. That novel is a little bit kind of long and rambling, but in a nice way. I enjoyed it, some readers don't. This one, I know I've got it, it's like a taller copy, but I think it looks to me significantly shorter. So we'll see how I get on with this one. I am a little nervous because I did love The Idiot so much, so when an author continues a story that I thought was kind of ended, I get a bit nervous because I'm like, oh, is it going to be as good? Is it necessary to write a second book from that perspective? But I'm hoping all those nerves will be unfounded. Another one I'm pretty excited about is Anthem by Noah Hawley. I think this is either going to be really good or not so great. So Noah Hawley is actually the creator of one of my all-time favourite TV shows, which is Fargo. Yeah, Fargo is such a good TV show. I haven't watched the latest season, to be fair, which I know did get some bad reviews, but the first few seasons of Fargo are so good. So he wrote a book. It's kind of speculative. It's like, so he described it as a fantasy novel about the real world, or a realistic novel about the fantasy world we live in. So I'll just read you the blurb, because every time I try and talk about this one, I just get myself into knots. So, America spins into chaos as the last remnants of political consensus break apart. Against a background of environmental disaster and opioid addiction, debate descends into violence and militias roam the streets, while teenagers across the world seem driven to self-destruction, communicating by memes only they can understand. Yet the markets still tick up, and the super-rich like Ty Oliver fly above the flames in private jets. After the death of his daughter, Ty dispatches his son Simon to an anxiety abatement centre. There he encounters another boy called the Prophet, and the Prophet wants him to join a quest. Before long, Simon is on the road with a crew of new comrades on a rescue mission as urgent as it is enigmatic. So, like I said, I think this one's either going to be really good and really clever, or just kind of like fall a bit flat. So I'm very intrigued by it, and I will definitely give this one a go. A re-release by Faber. This is They by Kay Dick. So this was originally published in 1977, or it says lost for over 40 years, so maybe it wasn't originally published in 1977. It's a rediscovered dystopian masterpiece of art under attack. This is Britain, but not as we know it. They are coming closer. They begin with a dead dog, shadowy footsteps, confiscated books. Soon the National Gallery is purged, eerie towers survey the coast, savage mobs stalk the countryside, destroying artworks and those who resist. It's a slim little novelette, and I'm definitely intrigued by this one. A couple of books set in Manchester, which I don't know how many books I've read that are set in Manchester, so I'm excited about this. Oh, by the way, let me just take you through some of the release dates. So the Either Or is being released on the 26th of May, so a little while to wait for that one. Anthem on the 18th of... 18th of January, so I think it's already out. And I'm not sure, I will write it down below if I know it. So yeah, a couple of novels set in Manchester. Again, I feel like these are either going to be like really good Neil Gaiman-esque books, or perhaps not kind of my thing. But this is the one that's being released soon. This is This Charming Man, but it is the follow-up to this book called The Stranger Times, both by C.K. McDonnell. Yeah, set in Manchester, about, I think this one's about like a newspaper called The Stranger Times. It's the go-to newspaper for the unexplained and inexplicable, and they discover that some of their stories, I think, in this book are actually real, or, you know, they start investigating some of the stories and find things out, I think, is the premise of that one. And then this one's about vampires in Manchester. So super exciting. I think, like I said, I think this is either going to be, it is compared to Gaiman on the, and Terry Pratchett on the cover. So we'll see if it kind of lives up to those authors. Oh, I'm just trying to drag this massive pile of books over. Oh. I've got this one, which I don't know a lot about. It's called Wivenhoe, by Samuel Fisher. This is out in February. It's a haunting novel set in an alternate present in an estuary village in Essex, blanketed in snow, the day after a young man is found murdered. Taking place over 24 hours and told in beautifully observed prose from the alternating perspectives of a terminally ill mother and her adult son, the novel imagines a world not unlike our own, starting to slowly grapple with a natural disaster and the shifts in social mores and moral convictions that it precipitates. So 3rd of February. I've also got Hex by Jenny Fagan. I've never read any Jenny Fagan. She's a contemporary Scottish author. I think she's a poet as well. It's the 4th of December 1591. On this, the last night of her life, in a prison cell several floors below Edinburgh's High Street, convicted witch Galis Duncan receives a mysterious visitor, Iris, who says she comes from a future where women are still persecuted for who they are and what they believe. This is the short little one. So you all know how I feel about short books at the moment. They have to be really good. They have to justify their shortness for me to really kind of enjoy them and for them to stick in my mind. So we'll see how I get on with this one. Very intrigued by this. This is a debut novel, I believe. Don't know much about this author or anything. This is Lambda by David Musgrave. It's coming out on the 3rd of March. So first of all, I love the cover. Second of all, I think it sounds pretty good. Mysterious arrivals from a distant sea, the Lambdas are genetically human. They slip quietly into low-income jobs and appear to want nothing more than to be left alone. When a bomb goes off at a school, a nebulous group of Lambda extremists claims responsibility for the attack. But how could a vulnerable community of tiny aquatic humans, barely visible in society and seemingly indifferent to their own exploitation, be capable of something so horrific? For Cara Gray, their first a haunting presence in her otherwise ordinary childhood, then the inscrutable target of her police surveillance work. As Cara's relationship with the Lambdas deepens, she must decide whether to accept her place in a pattern of technology, violence and deceit, or to take action of her own. So apparently David Musgrave, the author, is exhibited widely as a visual artist, and his work is held in many collections worldwide, so maybe some of you will be familiar with him from that perspective. But this is his first book, excited to read it. The reason I've got all these little scraps of paper, by the way, is that a lot of these proofs don't have blurbs on. Next we have Mischief Axe by Zoe Gilbert. This one is out in March as well. So this one I think is very much based on folk tale. So I have a mixed relationship with novels based on folk tale. I did not love Everything Under by Daisy Johnson. I'm trying to think, there's definitely some other ones that when I think folk tale I think not my kind of thing. But when it works, I think it really works. So the blurb for this one: Herne the Hunter, mischief maker, spirit of the forest, leader of the wild hunt, hurtles through the centuries, pursued by his creator. A shapeshifter, Herne, or Herne, dons many guises as he slips and ripples through time. At candlelit 12th night revels, at the spectacular burning of the Crystal Palace, at an acid-laced 60s party. Wherever he goes, transgression, debauch and entertainment always follow in his wake. Oh, that makes me think of Till as well. The German book by Daniel Kellman, which was disappointing. Like, I wanted so much more from that book, so we'll see, but it does definitely sound very intriguing. Next we have Ordinary Monsters by Jm Miro. I don't know anything about this author, but this one's out in the summer, so a little while for this one, so I might delay reading this one. So 7th of June, so I can talk about it a bit closer to when you can read it, but it's set in Edinburgh and London. It immediately appealed to me, the blurb of this one. I think this is the author's first book as well. So 1882, north of Edinburgh, on the edge of an isolated loch, lies an institution of crumbling stone where a strange doctor collects orphans with unusual abilities. In London, 2 children with such powers are hunted by a figure of darkness, a man made of smoke. Charlie Ovid discovers a gift for healing himself through a brutal upbringing in Mississippi, while Marlowe, a foundling from a railway freight, glows with a strange bluish light. When 2 grizzled detectives are recruited to escort them north to safety, they are confronted by a sinister, dangerous force that threatens to upend the world as they know it. So yeah, this one sounds really intriguing. But yes, I will remind you of it maybe a little bit closer to the date. But people have described it as a Dickensian X-Men meets Northern Lights. So either that's a good thing or a bit of a strange mix, but we'll see. Last one I will talk to you about for today is How High We Go in the Dark. I feel like I've seen this places, so I don't know, is it out in America maybe? Published here on the 18th of Jan, so it's already out, by Sequoia Nagamatsu, and I'll just read you the blurb. Dr. Cliff Miyashiro arrives in the Arctic Circle to continue his recently deceased daughter's research, only to discover a virus newly unearthed from melting permafrost. The plague unleashed reshapes life on Earth for generations, yet even while struggling to counter this destructive force, humanity stubbornly persists in myriad moving and ever-inventive ways. So excited about that one, definitely going to try that one out too. That is all I will take you through for now, my loves, because otherwise we'll be here forever. And I will let you know how I get on with those. Hopefully I like some of the other ones in the pile as well. Anyway, my loves, I think I'm going to go and finish my book now. And I thought I feel like I need to start doing reading vlogs or something. Would you all enjoy that? It is so too late to start that with this book because I am like 93% done with it, maybe a bit more, but let's do it for the last few stories of my book. Okay, my loves, I think I'm up to here. I finished reading on my Kindle last night, so I'm just trying to figure out exactly where I am. But I'm in The Forest by Laird Barron. One thing about this book, now I've been reading it like solidly for a few days, and particularly in the last few days where I've really been plowing through it, my brain feels so full of weird stories. Like I am just full of weirdness right now, and all these like images keep occurring to me, and I think I'm having weird dreams. And the other thing about reading like a lot of these stories back to back to back is it takes quite a lot of not work, but brain power, just because you have to work out like kind of the premise of every single story. So it's like starting like a whole new like series every time you read, because you're just trying to work out how it all fits together, which is very enjoyable. I have been really enjoying it, especially in the last like half of the book, but my brain is like on fire. But anyway, I'm on The Forest. I'm enjoying it so far. It's a little bit of a longer story, and we're gonna see how we go. I think it's about someone that works in films or is like a cinematographer, something like that. Is taking some time off, and he's gone into a forest to meet an old friend there. So we're gonna see what happens next.
Never thought I'd see you again. Never thought I'd see you again. Coming up short, I didn't have a choice but to let it go. You never let me explain myself. Explain myself. Now I'm leaving behind all the things I had in my mind. I'm changing my ways, I'm floating away.
So, just finished The Forest. It was good, I enjoyed it. Obviously I don't want to spoil any of these stories particularly, just in case you want to read them, because half the fun is in the reveal. Yeah, it was about this cinematographer who goes to visit like an old friend in a forest, in a house in a forest. And he discovers that that friend is up to some pretty sketchy stuff. Now we are on to The Hide by Liz Williams, who is an English writer of science fiction and fantasy. It looks like she has a PhD in science from Cambridge, which is interesting. Yeah, one of the things I like about this book is that they give little author bios. It really gives you like a sense of the author beyond just the story. So yes, this one is a little shorter. So we'll see what it's about, but I'm going to write my little note. I have written a short note on every story, so I'm going to write my little forest note now. I wasn't initially convinced I was going to write a little note on every story, but The reason I did it in the end is so that I can kind of like find stories again, because I feel like I might reference some of these in my future life, in whatever way that might be. So yes, that's why I've ended up writing they're kind of little summaries, maybe with a few comments.
Wish that I knew what to say now. You're getting too close, too close.
So my loves, I've just finished The Hide by Liz Williams and Dust Enforcer by Reza Negarestani, who is an Iranian writer and philosopher, and I think this is actually not a story, this is a chapter from his book Cyclonopedia Complicity with Anonymous Materials, which, according to the little author bio, is at once a horror fiction, an atlas of demonology, a political samizdat, and a philosophic grimoire. And it very much reminds me of the type of thing I would have read in my masters. So it's quite jargony, and it sort of reads like a atlas of demonology, so kind of like an encyclopedia entry on Pazuzu, the Sumero-Assyrian demon of epidemics. That's how it begins. I don't know whether this figure has actual historical precedent. I assume the answer is yes. And this demon is to do with like dust and wind, and they use like dust storms, I think, to spread epidemics, which is kind of interesting. And it's very much kind of looking at late capitalism, looking at neo-colonialism, through the eyes of this kind of more ancient figure, but also in a very sort of faux sciencey kind of way. But yeah, it's heavy on the jargon. The little bio describes it as perhaps the most innovative and audacious weird text of the decade. The book fuses Lovecraftian horror and Middle Eastern history with occult war machines and the US war on terror. We've got references to Foucault in here, we've got references to Deleuze and Guattari. So yes, it's very intellectual, this piece, so quite different from some of the other pieces. And then The Hide was good, very different, just more one of those stories which is kind of like realism but with a sense of creeping unease. It's about two sisters, kind of fraught relationship between two sisters. It's funny when you come across an English author in here, they read so English compared to the Americans. Or if you come across like a transatlantic author, so an American living in the UK or a British author living in America, you really get the sense of their transatlantic nature as well. But yeah, this one reads very British, but it's about a hide, so like as in when you go bird watching and you kind of sit in a hide, and it's narrated by one of these sisters who has a fraught relationship with her sister, and they see something that they shouldn't see in the hide, and something bad happens. So yes, that is that one. So now I'm going to write my little Dust Enforcer notes, and then I'm going to move on to The Familiars by Michaela Morissette. We are almost there, my friends. How many more stories do I have to go? So I've just got 4 stories left. So let's get into The Familiars. Hi my friends. Little update on the last 2 stories. The Familiars, really good. A really nice prose style. A lot of these are written, particularly the contemporary ones, are written in quite kind of a realism style, and then the weirdness comes through in the kind of plot. Not all of them for sure, but in a lot of them. But some of the authors definitely up it with the prose. With this one, it was more kind of dreamlike, I suppose. It was about a mother and a boy, and the boy has an invisible friend. And the invisible friend is possibly a little more sinister than your average invisible friend. So that was The Familiars, and I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was really beautifully written. Then we had The Lion's Den by Steve Duffy. Really good, enjoyed this one a lot. It's narrated by a zookeeper, and he witnesses something very strange happen. A boy goes into the lion's den and he's acting pretty weird, and then he sort of seems to just disappear, and then slowly all the animals in the zoo start to act really weirdly, and they start seeing weird things on CCTV, Really good. I really enjoyed that one. And now we're on to the last 2 stories. So we've got Little Lambs by Stephen Graham Jones and Saving the Gleeful Horse by KJ Bishop, and then there's an After Weird written by China Mir. So I'm gonna read those and then I'll be back with you when I have finally finished this monster.
Well, I know we are about to clash, but don't you worry, cause we still got a chance. Baby, don't lose your faith. Don't lose your faith. And everything that I said, spinning round in my head, spinning round in my head, spinning round in my head.
Finished! The longest book I've ever read in my life, for sure. 1100 pages of 4-columned writing in a big ass book. Yeah, that was a lot of words. My brain feels full of weirdness. But the last couple of stories, so we got Little Lambs by Stephen Graham Jones, and I knew his name rang a bell. My camera's gonna die, which is so annoying. And he wrote The Only Good Indians, which I didn't like very much, and I actually stopped reading. But it does make me think, maybe I'd like his short fiction. It was about 4 men guarding this ghostly prison, which had crumbled to pieces and now doesn't appear on any maps. And they sort of guard it in a sort of inescapable ways, like they're prisoners of the structure, it's called, and the structure moves as well, and it's all very ghostly and strange. And then we had Saving the Gleeful Horse by KJ Bishop, which is about this kind of under the bridge guy. He's like a giant and he lives between 2 worlds, and he saves this piñata which is alive, and he thinks all piñatas are alive. They're alive in the other world. And he thinks children are very cruel for killing piñatas, and he has to put star pieces back in the piñata to help it survive. Very weird, but good. I enjoyed it. And China Mir's After Weird was just as good as I expected it to be, looking at the concept of weird fiction in a weird way. I enjoyed it. I'm going to mark off the authors which I really particularly liked and show you, and we can chat a little bit about that. Hi my loves, I'm back for the final time today to take you through the authors that I think I want to read more from in this book. One of the wonderful things about reading an anthology like this, a big anthology, is that it actually gives you a really good idea of some backlist titles that you might never have normally come across. Obviously it's really easy to find books that are out recently because publishers have sort of advertising and PR behind them. Much harder, I think, unless it's a well-known author or a well-known book, to find backlist titles that you might like. So that's one of the wonderful things that I have learned reading this, and I will definitely be reading more anthologies in the future in the hopes of finding more authors that I really like. Second thing is obviously it's not always a good measure to read an author's short story, whether you'll like them or not. For example, some of the authors that I already know and love in this, I didn't love their stories particularly. For example, Mervyn Peake's story, I didn't particularly love in this. I did like Octavia Butler's, hers is really good. Some of the authors that I'm most familiar with, I wasn't overawed by their stories. And I feel like also sometimes you'll read a story by an author and it'll be amazing, but they've written nothing else similar in their career. So yes, I'm well aware that I may be skipping over some excellent authors in this, just because this story didn't resonate with me particularly, and possibly focusing too much on authors that actually probably I'm not going to love so much afterwards, but it's an inkling, it's a little indication that you might like them outside of the anthology, so I'm going to try a few of them. I put a few of them on my want to read. This is epitomised by the fact that I think 3 authors appear twice in this anthology, and for 2 of them I much preferred one story over the other. For the third, I liked both of his stories, but I will take you through them now. And just looking at this, I have no authors basically from the first 300 pages of this book. It goes in chronological order, and the first 300 to 400 pages of this book were quite hard going, I will not lie. That period of time, when before the weird was the weird, I don't know, some of the stories worked for sure, but not enough for me to want to read more from those authors. Yeah, if you want to take a similar journey with this book, you may find the same thing. Maybe that period of writing is much more your kind of thing. It starts in 1908, it goes all the way to 2010. And it wasn't until we got into the kind of 70s, I think, that I really started enjoying a much greater number of stories. There were definitely good stories in the first parts, but yeah, nothing that made me really want to read more from those authors. And there were also stories that did not work for me. So yes, but certainly the kind of latter 2/3 of this book I really, really enjoyed. So just a warning if you also want to tackle this beast and you feel like you might have a similar experience to me. So let's look at these authors. So I've written little dots next to their names. I did really like Shirley Jackson's The Summer People. I thought it was better than The Lottery, which is a good story, but not something that really kind of sticks in my mind as being an amazing short story. I really liked The Summer People though. And we all know I didn't much love The Haunting of Hill House, but this made me think maybe I would like some more of her short fiction. I think she's written absolute loads. I also enjoyed Daphne du Maurier's story in this, Don't Look Now. It was very weird and it reminded me that I wanted to read more du Maurier. I really liked Rebecca. I really liked Robert Aikman's The Hospice. I've definitely put him on my want to read, I think. Never read anything by James Tiptree Jr. somehow, who is actually a woman, if you didn't know. Her story, The Psychologist Who Wouldn't Do Awful Things to Rats, is a really excellent story. I really enjoyed it, so I'll definitely be reading more from her. I really liked Window by Bob Layman. It's about this this kind of Victorian house suddenly appears in the middle of nowhere, and it's like a window to another world or another time, and creepy stuff happens, and it's quite funny, and it's really well written as well. Really enjoyed Michael Shea's The Autopsy. I think I've put some more Michael Shea on my want to read. So the author that I really enjoyed both his stories was M. John Harrison. Can't believe I've never heard of him before. Feel like he's a bit of a big name in this genre and generally in speculative fiction. But I really enjoyed both Ignaro and The New Rays, so definitely want to read more from him. Also enjoyed Joanna Russ's The Little Dirty Girl. From what I've read, this may be a bit of an anomaly, this story, in that it's particularly good, but we'll see. Yeah, obviously I'm not mentioning the authors that I already really love. For example, Octavia Butler's story in this was really good, Jamaica Kincaid. I actually really enjoyed the George R.R. Martin story. Obviously the last two books I've read from him I have not enjoyed very much, one of which was a book of short stories, but everything that I've read of his has been set in the A Song of Ice and Fire series world, and I really did enjoy the novels when I read them, but I haven't had great experiences recently, so I was surprised at how much I enjoyed Sand Kings. What else have we got here? So really enjoyed Harlan Ellison's The Function of Dream Sleep. Don't know how, I've never heard of him before, but he is definitely a big deal. But having read a little bit more about him, I'm not sure I need to read more from him, but the reason I liked this one particularly is that it was because it was kind of like a bit more moving than some of the others. Like, I think there were a couple moving stories in here, and that was one of them, and I liked it. Ben Ockery, obviously I've read one of his books before. This was very Ockery, it felt very Ockery, but just wanted to flag it for you guys. Really enjoyed Karen Joy Fowler's The Dark. Really like the style of it. When I looked up her books on Goodreads, they do not have amazing reviews, but I'm still going to give her a go and see. You all know I quite like Haruki Murakami. I like Stephen Utley's The Country Doctor. I think I put some of him on my want to read. And I liked Martin Simpson's Last Rites and Resurrections, but I feel like he might have been one of the authors that I struggled to find other writing of his, like at least in terms of books, rather than collected stories in various different anthologies that I could read. Let me see. I liked this one. It's also another kind of moving story. Yes, I think he is one of those authors. There are a few of those in here who write for a lot of the kind of science fiction or speculative fiction or horror fiction magazines, but don't necessarily have a lot of like physical books you could read. I feel like I need to look into reading some of those magazines, but yes. Then we've got Michael Chabon's The God of Dark Laughter. I liked this one a lot. I think he's written a few novels, but I can't entirely remember. Yes, he is the Pulitzer Prize winner. He's written quite a few novels, and I'm really excited to read more from him because I enjoyed that story a lot. I put a question mark next to Michael Sisko, but I have added him to my want to read because this story was pretty hard going, not hard going, but a little more complex than the others and a bit more kind of densely written. But I did find it intriguing, and I think I would like to read more from him. Obviously loved the Neil Gaiman and the Jeff Vandermeer, both were great. Really liked Jeffrey Ford's story, The Beautiful Gallery. She had another story earlier on called The Delicate, but it was a bit too short for me to get into it, I think. But I enjoyed this one. Really liked The Town Manager by Thomas Ligotti. I think he has a few novels out, so I've definitely got those on my want to read or collections of short stories. Liked Brian Evenson's The Brotherhood of Mutilation, put him on my want to read. I liked Daniel Abraham's Flat Diane, and I also liked Margot Lanigan's Seeing My Sister Down. So I put those two on my want to read, I think, if they had relevant books. Liz Williams' The Hide, I obviously like that story, but I couldn't find anything really that she'd written that I particularly wanted to read at the moment, so I put her to one side. Then we've got Michaela Morissette's The Familiars. Again, I'm not sure there's absolutely loads written by her that I could find, but that was a very good story. Steve Duffy has some stuff out, some collections of short stories, I think, so I put some of those in my want to read. I added another collection of Stephen Graham Jones's stories to my want to read because, yeah, I'd like to give him a go again. I liked Little Lambs, but we'll see. Obviously, I didn't enjoy his novel, one of his more recent novels. And then KJ Bishop. I found a couple of books of hers that sounded intriguing, so she is on my want to read too. So my loves, those are the authors that I have kind of discovered through this book. I'm really excited to read more from them. I fear that some of the books will be hard to track down, but we'll see how we go. But anyway, I must go. Thank you so much for watching today. Hope you enjoyed this little read along and me tackling the end of the beast. I will see you again very soon. We need to do a book video soon too, so there's going to be more bookish content coming. But yes, thank you for watching, guys. Bye.